So let's start from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You say it's a 90-year cover-up.
Just about, yeah.
90 years?
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle.
There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand. So yes, that story bothers me. And I think, last thing I'll say, that one of the reasons that we've had all these disclosures and all these, 10 whistleblowers at this point, and it hasn't really become front page news. Part of it's suppression. Parts of the government don't want you to know about it, but part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far out.
The Italian government moved it to a secure air base in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945, and the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that.
So the Vatican was involved?
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly.
What is a demon? Right? I think most people would submit to you that a demon is some sort of supernatural being that is based in some sort of religious doctrine and is usually, malevolent to some degree.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Alien Addict on this fine Sunday. I'm not going to keep you too long with all the stuff, but you know what I'm going to say. I want you to go and do the podcast thing. There's plenty of merch. You can go and check the links out and go and buy some of the t-shirts. These ones in particular will be leaving the store in the next month and a half. This one will still be up. This one will also be disappearing. So yeah, go and buy some merch. Without further ado, my co-host Ollie and our guest Greg from Strange Sauna. How are we doing?
Hey guys.
This background goes really well with your room, Greg.
Oh yes, exactly. The beware of aliens. It's total alien stuff. The Strange Sauna is ready to rock and roll with the whole Vatican updated paranormal guidelines.
Well, if anybody who doesn't know, I found out to my surprise, the name Strange Sauna is because you do your show from a sauna.
Exactly. Yep. I talk about strange things inside of my sauna converted into a podcast studio.
Genius.
Yeah. Hey, the sound quality is excellent.
Yeah. Right. So the Vatican thing. I saw this thing pop up the other day, and I couldn't help thinking to myself, the amount of strange stuff that goes on now. Like it's
absolutely.
I mean, I was only saying on the show last night. It's even if you just think like this, the auroras that have been seen all over the place. Like I remember when it wasn't like normal to go and take auroras with like a 5-year-old iPhone in your back garden when it's
right
with light pollution, and it's almost getting to the point where you go, there's so much strange stuff that's going on. Like where does it end?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, the year, I don't know if y'all remember, but the year started out with the Miami alien story, the whole Miami Mall aliens breaking out there, people reporting these 10 feet tall figures. You know what I mean? I think in December or in the August, it was like summertime, 2023, you had the Peru alien story. We had people getting attacked by aliens. and they were blaming that on, what was it, rocket packs or something?
Yeah,
Miners?
rocket pack miners.
Fucking miners.
Yeah,
that's more ridiculous than aliens.
right. It's like, okay, rocket packs are freaking expensive. I think we talked about this last time I was on the show.
Yeah.
It's good to be back, by the way.
No,
so
it's
thanks for
great
inviting me.
having
This is a fantastic topic to bring up because it's so bizarre. But like this year, you have so much stuff around alien stuff. I mean, last year, I think everybody was in the conspiracy theory kind of area, was talking about how it was the year of the alien disclosure. And then I've heard topics about this year being the year of the demon, because
Sounds like some sort of messed up Chinese calendar, doesn't it?
Right? Well, it is the year of the dragon. So, I mean, you know, the book of Revelation does say that the dragon will give rise to the beast and give power to the beast. So you never know. I thought that was kind of it's weird that it's an election year. I've heard for like so many different countries this year. It's like 49 different countries have elections this year, and it's prominent, important elections.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be the year of the dragon, giving rise to who knows what.
Did you happen to see the painting that was unveiled of Prince Charles, or King Charles, I should say?
That I did, yes. Yeah, I actually did a video on that, a quick little video.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you have to kind of invert it. You have to put it side by side in order to see what you want to see. And so it's very subjective, and I can see how people go, well, you kind of have to distort the photo to see these things. But you find it hard to believe that the painter didn't do these things on purpose. You know what I mean? Because he knew that they have to know that King Charles is heavily speculated, and, you know, everybody's digging into him, especially like the whole conspiracy realm. I mean, just the royal family in general. The fact that he is like boasting that he is belonging to the bloodline of Vlad the Impaler, you know? And I mean, King Philip said that he wanted to come back as a virus to help depopulate the earth. That was one of his dying wishes. He would come back as whatever. So it's like, you have this history of messed up stuff. And you can even find articles back in the day where it's talking about hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the royal family dined on human flesh. And that's like a legit article, but it was from like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So people are like, don't worry, that was just centuries ago. But it's like, yeah, but they stay in the family. What's really going on here? So the King Charles photo, the figure, when you put them side by side, when you duplicate the image and you put it side by side, you kind of see the image. And a lot of people were pointing out that it's Baphomet. You know, if you invert the colors, you turn up the sepia filter on it, you get this nice figure. I mean, you get a muscular structure, you get a torso, you get pecs or breasts, you get abs. I mean, it looks like a figure, you know what I mean? Like a human torso. But the head, I've heard it compared to Anubis. So the god, I don't know if he's the god of the underworld. I think he was replaced by Osiris, but he was the one who would weigh your heart at the end of your life. If it was heavier than a feather, then you'd go to hell. But I don't know. What did you guys think of that?
Well, I thought it was weird when he unveiled it, because he looked shocked. If you saw him like take the thing off, and he sort of jumped back. You would have thought he'd seen that beforehand, before the unveiling. I don't believe that painting was always like that. If you look at it, it looks like, to my eyes anyway, that was a normal painting of him in dress uniform, and all of the red has been added on afterwards.
Oh, maybe.
So that makes me wonder whether that's why he sort of was a bit surprised when he came to see it. And then that made me wonder whether, like, maybe that painting isn't a message to us. Maybe that's a message to him. Yeah.
Well, and you know, like, part of me thought that he jumped back because he's kind of I don't know. He doesn't seem like the masculine type.
No.
So he's kind of a sissy when it comes to like stuff flying at him. So he's like, oh dear God, get out of my way. So I think he was just surprised that the thing fell on him. And he's like, oh my God.
Or
yeah.
what the bloody hell have you done to my painting?
Yeah, you're right. Like it totally, I think you're right. The painting itself must have been done first, and then the red smearing must have been done afterwards. And the butterfly specifically right there, he called to have that on there, the monarch butterfly. And people were saying, oh, it's monarch mind control and all this stuff. But I think it has like a deeper meaning than that. Like when you look at the symbolism of the butterfly.
The monarch butterflies were named after the monarchy, I think, weren't they?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
That could be it. But isn't there a hidden eye on it as well, like his pocket?
So I didn't see the hidden eye.
I saw somebody posting pictures of like this. It's just like a single eyeball that's sort of hidden in there somewhere. But again, is it something that someone's edited afterwards or something to make it weirder? That doesn't help because it's weird anyway. We don't need to make it any weirder.
Maybe maybe King Charles just has a thing for like eye brooches, and he's got one, and he said, I want my favorite eye on my painting. And the blood.
Eye brooches and things that look like a vision of hell. They're the two things that really tickle him as far as art.
Yeah, and so it's ridiculous when everybody's coming out and you see these articles that are just like, oh, it's such a fantastic painting. Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, this is so the artistic talent. And I'm like, what? Really? I mean,
in your house?
No, definitely not. I mean, would you guys hang that up?
I mean, I would. I'd definitely put it as a backdrop.
It's like a collector's piece now, right?
Yeah, that's like maybe that's it. Maybe he's going to go into some sort of streaming, and that's the back of the King's podcast.
I don't know why, but it reminded me of Ghostbusters. That painting.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, actually, you got somebody in the chat. It's Danielson from our show that he's a fan. He came over from our show here.
Oh,
reminds me of the Ghostbusters painting. So it is one of those things where I saw that going around where people were like, this is creepy, because wasn't that guy a demon? You know,
Vigo.
Yeah. What was that? Vigo?
Vigo. That was his name. Vigo, the Carpathian.
Okay.
Yeah,
was he an alien or a demon?
Watched that film about, I don't know, 1,000 times as a kid. I tried to show my oldest it, and it got to the scene with the heads being chopped off, and that was it. That was it. He was out.
He was like, "This is not that cool." Yeah. Well, I mean, the painting of King Charles almost looks like his head is cut off. You know what I mean? And so I've heard that I've heard interpretations of the painting represents the king kill ritual, where he will be dying soon. He has cancer. That's why he requested the butterfly. I don't know if he requested the red, because I mean, when you think of red and you look at like the karma, not the karma, but what's it called? Like the colors of your soul as you rise up. Purple is at the top, and red is down at the bottom. I'm blanking it. Maybe someone in your comments can let me know. But red is associated with like anger, sexuality.
Like the base chakra, isn't it?
Chakras, red. Yes, that's what I was. Yes, so it's very just primal. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm thinking. Is he trying to be? Does he want this representation of this red color?
Do you think that there would be the same sort of conspiracy talk with the painting if it was blue instead of red splattered everywhere? It was blue, or it was green.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, because I think there's a conspiracy for every color nowadays. You know what I mean? Because like the blue colored roofs, right?
Yes,
with the Maui fires. So if you had a blue roof, surprisingly, your house didn't burn down. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, like all the cars that was blue survived.
Yeah, you had blue T-shirts. You had just blue umbrellas, never burned. So it's like, what was it about that color spectrum? I don't know.
I mean, if I was there and I had the money, my house would definitely be blue.
Oh yeah,
and all
it'd be a good investment. Insurance rates would go down and everything. I don't know. Yeah.
The Vatican thing, though, Lee's been looking into it today. I've been looking into it today, and it doesn't seem like there's much there. to go on. Over
Right.
they're not giving us, or is it just me? Did you find something in that you found that that's interesting?
Well, Lee, what did you can go first? Did you find anything specifically?
Well, I found it interesting first of all that they were doing it, because it seemed like a slightly pointless exercise. If there wasn't something behind it. Because what was it, 1973? I think it was either 1973 or 1978.
Yeah, 1978. Yep.
And what it seemed, looking back at it, like I know what Ollie's saying there wasn't a lot to go off, but it kind of seemed to give the Vatican a good way of like brushing away paranormal events.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that really weird, because that to me is like is that the preparation for seeing more of these weird things going on? Is that they don't want to be like dragged into it every time it happens?
Yeah, and that's the first thing that came to my mind is like, okay, so are they telling us that we're about to see some crazy things and they have to come out and basically reinforce these rules to justify brushing them off, right? Now, what I found some articles. This is like a 2012 article from the Journal. And this is talking about the Vatican publishing the 1978 guidelines to identifying false visionaries. But they said that the document was approved by Pope Paul VI in February of 1978, but it had only been officially published in 2012. So this wasn't publicly available for several decades. And that's what I found interesting, is that they kept this kind of hidden in their own library. I mean, who knows what's in the Vatican library, to be honest. Yeah. And so like it was about 34 years they kept this hidden. And then all of a sudden in 2012, they came out. Now they're saying that the justification for them coming out with these things publicly is because of the internet and the rise of communication spreading faster. And so what I'm thinking about nowadays is AI. I mean, you have AI at the drop of a frickin' sentence. You can give an app, an algorithm, a software program, some sort of thing to create something, and it will look very, very real.
Next thing you know, you've got a video of a princess that hasn't been seen since December of 2023.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, and that whole story was around the royal family and where is Kate, and then she comes out with this verification video where she's saying she had cancer as well, but many people were pointing out that the background looked fake and it was altered. They put it through these programs saying, yeah, it was confirmed that the background is not real. So it's like, is this kind of like a preparation for us, like the American people, not American people, the people around the world, to kind of start questioning things and learning how to identify what's fake and what's not. And I'm thinking that these rules were updated right now specifically because of AI. Even though they didn't say that, I think that is the background justification.
I know you said 34, around about 34 years, but I wonder if that's like 33 and a half. Because 33 is a number. I know you've touched on 33 with Donald Trump recently.
Yeah. 33 is a master number. It's heavily used by the Freemasons, right? The 33 degrees of Freemasonry. So Jesus Christ died at the age of 33. There's tons of references to the number 33. So maybe you're right. Maybe it was 33 and a half years. And was it to the dot? I don't know. But it's one of those things where the Vatican is just so suspicious anyway. The Lucifer telescope. I don't know if you know about this.
Yep. Is that still the largest telescope in the world?
Oh,
I don't know.
It was to a point, wasn't it? They had the largest telescope in the world, called Lucifer, because that's normal. It's a completely normal thing to do.
Right. Yeah. So this thing, I looked this up this morning. It's called the Large Binocular Telescope Near Infrared Utility with Camera and Integral Field Unit for Extragalactic Research. Okay. So just in case you wanted to know what Lucifer meant. And just to be clear, this the Lucifer telescope is housed at the University of Arizona on Mount Graham, and that is neighboring the Vatican Observatory. So it's not at the Vatican Observatory. So you'll find all these like Snopes PolitiFact articles saying like, hey, false, this is fake news. The Vatican does not have a telescope called the Lucifer, but its neighbor does.
Mm-hmm.
And so some people are saying, well, I mean, you have the Jesuits running the Vatican Observatory. They're right next to this large telescope called the Lucifer. Why would they not kind of go over there and partner with them? And I'm sure they have, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Looking for signs of life, looking for how to understand the beginning of the universe and galaxies and whatnot.
I find it fascinating that the Vatican's had such an interest in space. It just doesn't seem like something that you would just wouldn't put them two together, the whole religious thing. Like, let's look and see what's out in the solar system.
Mm-hmm.
And they've even mentioned, I think it was quite recently, that they would embrace aliens as sons of God.
Yeah, it was it was somebody from the Vatican Observatory was saying eventually, yeah, people will look to aliens as their god or something like that. Like that was the fear. And there's like Timothy Alberino. He has this apotheotheism theory where you will have alien life form come down. They will be looked at as either the fallen angels or some sort of demigod to be worshipped. And this whole putting electronics into your skin and so man merging with transhumanism, man merging with machine, is part of this way to give humans godlike powers. So you'll see these fallen angels come down with these tremendous powers. They'll be able to do things that man could never do. And so if you go, hey, if you put this brain chip in you, we'll give you these upgrades that'll allow you to do things that these fallen angels can do. And that will derive this new religion. And some say that the Vatican knows that this is going to happen, and that if you fall into like this whole, or if you look at the New Age kind of movement, where this is the age of Aquarius, where we're coming in, and the whole reverse horoscope, I forget it off the top of my head, but the equinox, I think it's called precession of the equinox, where the horoscope, if you look up towards the horizon at this specific point, you'll see a specific star pattern, and whatever star pattern that is, it will be that precession. So we were in the year of Pisces, and then it's moving into Aquarius. And so the year of Pisces, started roughly right around 2,000 years ago, because each horoscope year is about 2,100 years, all right, 2,160 years or so. So if you have each year as this precessional year of 2,100 years, and within that you have a God, and so the God of our time is Jesus Christ, presumably, even though you have many other religions. But if you look at our calendar, our year, the year that we go by right now has to do with Jesus, right? So a lot of people are saying, well, we're coming up to the end of this age, the age of Pisces, and we're entering the age of Aquarius. Some say that we've already entered the age of Aquarius. Some say that the Mayan calendar in 2012, when the Mayans predicted the end of the world, it wasn't really the end of the world, it was the end of the age. And that's when we entered the age of Aquarius. But with the age of Aquarius comes the vast acquirement of knowledge and truth. And then you look at Donald Trump having this truth app, he called it Truth. And so every time he puts out a message. It's called a truth. So Donald Trump truth something. And if you look at the logo, the T logo, it's a T with a blue dot. Some people have tilted that sideways and it actually looks like a man dropping water, or like a faucet dropping water. And the sign of Aquarius is the water bearer. So he's a man dropping water, representative of that knowledge, giving knowledge to human beings, right? And there's a lot of that kind of stuff happening right now where you're seeing, I just saw it on the thumbnail for this show, lifting of the veil, showing people what's really happening, exposing the lies, exposing the truths. You had Elon Musk purchased Twitter. Yeah, the Twitter files kind of coming out saying that the government is colluding with big tech. They're doing many different things. So referring to election, referring to mandated medicines. And, you're looking at a lot of different things that are kind of being exposed right now and that will be exposed. And so maybe it's in preparation for that. And maybe that's why if aliens do exist and the government knows about it, the Vatican knows about it, maybe they're doing this as, hey, look, this information is going to come out no matter what. So we got to prepare the world for this, because if we just drop this ball like, hey, here's the aliens, like, how do we introduce that idea into the Bible? And how do we reconcile the Bible with this existent, force that's out in the world? And, like, did they take part of that stuff out of the Bible? Like the Bible's been rewritten many, many times.
Have you ever wondered, like, because I have recently, and this is an alien channel, that maybe the big disclosure that we're all waiting for is actually going to set us back a few thousand years, and we're all going to start going to church.
Reinforced religion. I've been thinking that lately as well.
Yeah, I mean, it could. It could spark, the whole Great Awakening movement, in the whole Q movement, the whole just conspiracy movement of this is a Great Awakening, knowledge and all that stuff. The Great Awakening was a mass movement of Christian beliefs, like the spreading of Christian beliefs across the United States from the east to west. Mm-hmm. So they were moving a lot of churches, couldn't just get up and move over on the way to Oregon, like the Oregon Trail and stuff. So they had to have a lot of people just memorize and take with them the Bible and scriptures. And you had a lot of just self preachers, or like, many people are starting podcasts now. Think of that as preachers back in the day. You had everybody starting to preach, and they're starting their own way of preaching things, and they have their own way of talking about stories and introducing the Bible and all these things. So that was the whole Great Awakening as far as spreading Christianity. But that is if you believe that Christianity is truly what it's meant to be for. Like, there is Jesus Christ, he is the King of heaven, and he is the all coming, like, he will come again, and he is everything, right? There's a large faction of people that believe that, Jesus is fake. The whole story of Jesus is meant to control humanity here. And that would fall into the age of Aquarius type of thing, where every age needs a God. And that God is to keep you in line as far as morality goes, right? And I agree, like, the Christianity, the religion in itself has a lot of fruitful ideas as far as guidelines to having a moral life. Like the golden rule, treating others like you want to be treated. But it is one of those things where I heard this on, I don't know if you guys ever listened to the Tinfoil Hat podcast.
Yeah.
So who was it? Human Vibration was just on there. And she called these forbidden topics where you can't talk about them locked doors. So like the Holocaust, for example, is a locked door. You can't argue that ever happened or didn't happen, right? Certain things that you would get in trouble for talking about, like during the Big C, Little V, you couldn't talk about certain drugs or medications that worked, you had to talk about the miracle medicine that was given out by Pfizer. So there's these locked door conversations that you're not able to have, and then you have to ask why. And so when it comes to the existence of Jesus and is Jesus fake, that seems like a locked door conversation, because that's going to get a lot of people angry, for one. And for two, it's like, what proof do you have that Jesus does not exist? You know what I mean? Because you have to sway that public away from, their religious faith, which is like, when you get so deep into a topic where you believe something, like, that's why they were saying that the science is the new religion, because people were clinging on to this medicine saying this will work, this works, this works. Meanwhile, the evidence shows that it's not really working that well. So it's like, right? That's a faith-based type of thing.
And people won't let go of that type of thing. It's even now, as evidence mounts up, just about that in particular. Like I know people that are sick now, and don't get me wrong, people get sick. It might have absolutely nothing to do with that at all. But like, I mean, like a couple of people I know, the one person keeps having fits and like flashy light trips to the hospital. The other person hasn't worked now for 3 or 4 months. But people don't even seem to be allowing themselves to ask the question of like, is this something else? It's a weird, a weird mental protection, I think, that they put around themselves. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, God forbid you admit that you gave something to your children, right? That would make them sterile or maybe even kill them. So, I mean, you got to think of these things, and, you don't want to go down that road. But it's, you got to think about the times before social media, the times before even just media, news, and the television. What was the main spreader of information? It was the church, right? So the church was the mainstream media before mainstream media. That's where people went. That's where they got their information from. That's where they were told stories. That's where they communed with one another. So
and you couldn't speak against the church at the time, because if you did, you'd probably lose your head.
Exactly. So it's, there is that grain of, the commitment to, hey, how dare you speak out against what the church is doing, or even just the Vatican. I mean, if you just ask, 1 out of every 10 people, do you think the Vatican's corrupt? I would hope that you'd get a majority of the population saying, yeah, I could see how they could be corrupt. This current pope believes, or is pretty lackadaisical when it comes to gay marriages, transsexuals. He's pretty open when it comes to abortions. So it's like one of those things where you're going, do you really believe what you're saying here? Or is this all just a propaganda type of thing?
See that at that point, like it goes beyond the a human progression thing, because that's kind of up to us to make those decisions. But there's some pretty hard and fast rules when it comes to religion. So to be so malleable with it, I flip between it, because obviously, like, the Vatican is still has so much power. So why is it trying to dilute itself? Because it doesn't have to. It can carry on doing exactly what it's doing anyway. I don't think it's gonna lose or gain any followers because of the becoming a little bit woke. I don't think those people are going, do you know what? I really like the Pope now that he wears like a rainbow badge now and again.
Yeah.
I mean, what if like these sort of places are just like everywhere else? They can be corrupted and they can be infiltrated.
Yeah. That's exactly what I think is happening. But the question is, was it corrupt from the very beginning? And did you have a set of devout followers who were just being tricked from the very beginning, where the corruption has always been in charge, and it's been maintaining its way down into where we are today. But then you always have the side of the good, or like the dark versus the light, good versus evil. You kind of have these people in the background saying, hey, look, I'm noticing these trends, and this is not what we're supposed to be doing. If we look at the rules via the Bible, we look at the rules via the Vatican, the church, like even this, the norms regarding the manner of proceeding in the discernment of presumed apparitions or revelations, right? The document that was just updated. So that type of thing is, these are hard set rules. We got to follow them. You know, there's always going to be people like that. They go, hey, look, this is the standard operating procedure for this church. We got to follow this. Why is he not following it? So they would consider that a conservative, right? You're following this to the scripture and to the fine tune of things, where if you look at that in like a legal term of sense, like you have the letter of the law and then the spirit of the law. The letter of the law is very rigid. There's no wiggle room. Whereas the spirit of the law goes, well, what was the intention? You know, if you had good intent, you weren't really like trying to run over like the neighbor's cat or something. So it's like one of those things where there has to be some wiggle room in order to grow and expand. And I think that's where the new pope is kind of exploiting that loophole, being like, hey, look, I'm giving it some wiggle room. I'm letting everybody come in here. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's like the reason why they're doing it, but I definitely think that the Vatican has information that was either stolen or that was given to them regarding many different things, as far as like scientific innovations. You're talking about things that government won't want other governments to have. So they'll just have one centralized location to keep it, and that's the Vatican. You know, just keep it at the Vatican library. You know, it's off limits, right? It's like this third party source where like the government of Italy or the government of Germany can't just like walk up in there and be like, hey, I want to see these files. Be like, nope, this is sealed off. This is the Vatican under the Pope, right? And so it's like this leader, you know, the Vatican itself is like this sanctioned area, you know, like I feel like it's like its own entity, like a country almost.
It is its own country, I think, isn't it? With its own country, its own laws. It's the same as the difference between like London and the City of London.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's because I think that I can't remember how big it is, but like the central London isn't considered part of like Greater London, and it's the same with the Vatican, because I know that they have their own police forces, don't they? For instance, there I keep going back to what Tucker Carlson keeps doing, and it seems that in every single interview he's in, he is cramming in somewhere that I've been told stuff. I don't want to talk about what I've told because I can't confirm it, and it's spiritual,
right?
It's awfully timely for all this stuff.
Yeah, and you had the U.S. legislation. I forget who it was. It was like either the House of Republicans or the Senate. They had this UFO hearing, closed door hearing. I think David Grush was in part of this thing, where they go into like this closed door meeting, and then they're talking. They all come out talking about interdimensional beings. They're not talking about a galaxy far, far away. They're talking about interdimensional. So I think that we know something. I think the Vatican definitely knows something. I think the Vatican is working hand in hand with CERN. Whether or not there's hard proof of that, I don't know exactly, but I do know that.
I think you're right.
Yeah, there has to be this sharing of knowledge that the Vatican has, and that the CERN is creating, and also will need for their understanding of dimensional analyses. And if you look at CERN, I mean, CERN just opened up during the solar eclipse on April 8th. You have Sergio Bertolucci. He's the former director of research and scientific computing of CERN. He told that CERN could, or he told a British tabloid that CERN could open up doors to other dimensions. He said it was for a, quote, very tiny lapse of time, unquote. So mere fractions of a second. But I mean, He said that was just enough time to peer into this open door, either by getting something out of it or sending something into it. So this is a former director of CERN admitting that they can actually open up portals. And you've had these weird connections of people seeing clouds in the sky, circular formations after they fire this thing up. I don't know if you guys have been following the weird blip on the radar down by Antarctica in Africa.
It's really strange. And that's happened, is it 3 or 4 times now that's reappeared?
Yeah, I mean, like one of the last times it happened, it got huge. And it went, so if everybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's this large, so if you look at an infrared map of the world and you look down in, I think it's the Arctic Ocean, maybe I'm getting that wrong, but it's the ocean right by Antarctica and Africa. And there was this gigantic black circle. It just opened up. It looked like a big just void on the heat map. And the creator of the app that this image was created in said that it was a technical glitch. They said that they fixed it, but then the void came back. And then, like Lee was saying, this thing's come back 5 or 6 times now. Mm-hmm. And one of the last times in the same spot, yes. And one of the last times this came back, it got even bigger, almost like it went up the entire coast, west coast of Africa, and it looked like it was going to engulf the whole country. Like it was that big. And so I'm like, is that a portal? Is that a dimension? Is that something where something can come in and out of? Or is that just like a glitch on a radar? I mean, it is just one application that's seeing this. It's a specific wavelength. But if you look at the Lucifer is that telescope, right? It's cooled down to like negative 213 something Celsius. So this thing's freaking cold. And that is to see specific wavelengths of light that the human eye cannot see. And so there's different variations. And if you think of a ghost, it has to do with vibrations. And so, you know how like people go, ooh, like I'm feeling something really cold here. There's a cold pocket of air. That's because the ghost, when you think of it as manifestations of like, if a ghost is a spirit moving faster, so its particles are vibrating faster, so you just can't see them. Mm-hmm. They have to slow themselves down. And how do you slow yourself down? You get cold. So when you freeze particles, it slows down the vibration. So that way you can see something in the same dimension, right? So if you freeze water, it turns into a different form, right? You see water as water, but then when you freeze it, you see an ice cube. So it's the same thing with a ghost. You can't really see it in the water state or the vapor state, but once you freeze it, you might be able to see something.
Mm. Holy shit. So so in movies, it's always depicted when you see a ghost, the room gets cold.
Yeah.
So maybe they're telling us something there.
Yeah, it's like a transition of state, a state of matter. And like human beings, we're vibrating, like the particles in our skin, we're all vibrating at, a certain frequency. And so when you die, you have this soul, presumably, that has that frequency. Maybe it's different. And so to get that soul to communicate with, living tissue, you have to, come down to a different vibration. You have to get really cold to do that. So I don't know. One of those things.
It's interesting. I mean, the idea of CERN being able to open things up and peer through, it's just because we can open something up for a short amount of time and see through it, doesn't mean that whatever's on the other side doesn't exist in some sort of different type of matter or somewhere it could make its way through as well. It's the first thing that came to mind when you said that was the way we depict things that are really fast in movies. So if you take like the whatever the Marvel character was, where he was dead quick, or the Flash or something like that. Mm-hmm. The Flash has so much more time to do things because he's moving at such an incredible rate of speed. So if we can open something briefly to look through it, that could be like more than enough time for things to slip in and out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if something's like a millisecond here, how do you know it's not 7 years somewhere else?
Yeah.
Right? Like the opening of this portal that you created is just sitting there, and people are right now deciding, what are we going to do with this thing? Are we going to send something through this? I don't know. Like they might have plenty of time to do whatever they want.
Mm.
And I don't know if I don't know if that's like legit, or if that's like what a black hole is, you know? I don't know if that's like a wormhole or like some sort of portal. But
whenever we have concerns about things like CERN and whatever else they're doing in the world, you've always got your celebrities though that will like your deGrasse Tyson and Brian Cox that they'll explain it to people. So it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's just all we're doing is just having a little look here, tweaking it, and this is for the greater good of humanity. By the way, Brian Cox 2 weeks ago said the Bible was the worst book ever written.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there's always somebody who will just defend what they're doing and say, you know, there's nothing to worry about here. This is all normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not normal, people.
Yeah. And there's I don't know if you've listened to the latest Howard, Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan podcast.
No, I watched a clip of it just before. I'm going to listen to it tomorrow.
Yeah, I would highly suggest listening to that multiple times, because he talks about a lot of different things that I think could be becoming relevant soon. As far as like, he has patents for a lot of different things. And he was talking about the asteroid belt, getting off the whole patent thing. He was just referring to CERN, and he was referring to space travel. And he said that when you go out, so he's saying that right now, everybody's saying that space is just constantly expanding and expanding and expanding. But you have to have a breathing kind of formation. So if something expands, something else has to retract in its place, because an action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? So if you think about the Big Bang, if that were to cause a big explosion going out this way, there has to be an equal and opposite explosion going out the other way, right? Because something had to explode, causing a left and right paradigm. And so what he's saying is that when it comes to things that we think we understand, we're only looking at one side of the coin, kind of. And he was even talking about how the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, he believes that was the Sirius star as a planet form, and they blew themselves up with a CERN-like device, a particle accelerator. They said he said that popped their planet, and it created the asteroid belt.
That's fucking terrifying.
It is.
Right? And I know, like, he didn't provide any evidence of how CERN would do that, so that would be an interesting conversation. But it's like, yeah, why aren't we addressing these issues? And, like the whole, like, just brush it off, like, no worries. It's just a very simple explanation. And I know, like, the majority of the public probably wouldn't understand the scientific explanation, but at least put it out there and have like some debate before you hit the on switch,
Yeah, we have no say, do we?
No. And that's the question. Like,
and the funny thing is, this is kind of the place we know where they're doing stuff. There's probably so many places all over the world that are doing crazy shit that we've no idea. Like you look at the gain of function stuff. Before like a couple of years ago, no one talked about that. No one talked about the fact that we were breeding viruses to become actively more deadly to humans. That seems like a shit idea.
Still doing it too.
Yeah.
I mean, every now and then you'll get a story coming out. Hey, China has this SARS-CoV-2 virus that's 10 times more deadly. You have something about smallpox. You have now the bird flu is catching on steam. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, apparently that's all in your cows.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, as far as CERN goes, there's multiple little CERNs. all over America, all over the world. So there's many particle accelerators all over the place. So, whatever the large one in Switzerland, is that where it's at, or Geneva?
Well, it's Switzerland. It borders. They're building a new one, I believe, aren't they?
Bigger one.
And that one's going to encompass all of Switzerland and further into France, I think.
Okay. Do you know if Elon Musk is helping build that?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because he's been quoted saying that either the director of CERN or somebody at CERN contacted him, or he contacted them to offer his assistance to build the next one with his boring tunnel machine.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So yeah, I Elon Musk is another one of those guys where it's just like, don't know about that guy. I mean, just like you're saying, with the corruption can always happen at the top. So
the thing is, he always has the Neuralink shadow hanging over him. And something went wrong as well, I think, with the first implant. If
did it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure I read somewhere that either he had issues with it or it stopped doing what it was supposed to do, something like that.
Do you know Project Unity? I don't know if you've heard of the channel. You've seen. I think you've definitely seen it, Lee.
He's on Skyfire right now as we speak.
So Project Unity, Jay, he interviewed. I think yesterday. I think it was the first person to have the Neuralink.
Oh yes. Okay. Was that the clip that went viral? And the guy was like, he was moving things with his brain. He's like, yes, I can do this. Kind of like Forces. He said he was like a Jedi. He felt like a Jedi.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see that clip.
Yeah, it was like a month or two ago. But
Jay interviewed him yesterday, but he's probably been on other shows before.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, he was on yesterday. Whether he is the guy, I don't know. He could just be bullshitting him.
Yeah. Right.
I don't get that, because I was a big. I said I do like Musk, but I'm worried about it, because 1 minute he's saying we need to be worried about AI, and the next minute he's like, well, you know what, we're just gonna have to embrace it. So we'll just get involved with it, because then we're gonna be okay. So if we merge with it, we'll be fine. If we don't, we'll be buggered. I mean, it's better the devil you know.
Well, he's literally been quoted saying, if you can't beat him, join him, about AI. And, if you look at his Tesla bots, not nearly as on pace as the Boston Dynamics bot that can literally just pick itself up, multi-dimensional, like multi-jointed, right?
I have a real issue with the Boston Dynamics robots. And it's funny, like you talk about all sorts of crazy stuff on podcasts, but I always think it's this one that probably makes me sound the craziest. I don't believe they're real.
Oh, okay. Why?
But you see the videos, that those corridor crew guys keep doing, and they're the funny ones where a hockey stick gets hit one and suddenly a robot's had enough. Yep. They look identical to the Boston Dynamic videos. And even then, when you watch it was the scaffolding one that really did it for me. Do you remember the one where the Boston Dynamic robot, he puts a plank down, then jumps onto the plank, and then jumps up onto like a scaffold where there's a worker there, and throws him his bag of tools up. And you look at it and you go, oh, if this was a special effect on a film, this is like Sci-Fi Channel 3:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
because none of it had weight to it. If you look at them, they always look bouncy, like they're not carrying mass. There was a guy I've emailed him once. I want to try and email him again because I want to get him on the show. He was on what was the podcast he was on?
So is this so you're showing the video now? Is this
the one,
one, or is this the real button?
This is the one I'm talking about, where it's even that, like the plank.
The real one.
That if you told me that that's been made in Unreal, I would believe it.
So this is a real robot here.
Apparently so.
Yes, it's straight from the Boston Dynamic website.
Wow.
But yeah, this guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I think it was the Higher Side Chats he was on, and he's wrote a book called Lucifer Technology.
Okay.
And his premise is that we were given stuff at some point, like we were given like the transistor and things like that, and we've essentially hit the wall of where these entities are passing technology over to us, and that's why technology's stalled, and all we're kind of doing is repackaging and repurposing slightly better versions of what we had before, and the big leaps in technology aren't happening again. And yeah, there's just something about those robots. I look at them and I go, I'm not convinced that this isn't like a massive money laundering operation with Boston Dynamics going, yeah, just keep the money coming in. We're going to keep building the robots. Everyone will have robots.
Those dogs
soon.
are definitely real. I've seen them though on other reviewers have reviewed them.
Yeah, but there's a difference between like making like a 4-legged robot dog and like a fully functioning
Terminator
human.
Yeah. So like that one that we just watched, I imagine there's not many of those. Maybe like one or maybe two.
There isn't. You'd be right there, Greg.
Yeah. So, and then when you look at the Tesla bots, I mean, yeah, there's much slower. I mean, they're kind of just more like they got to think before they do things. They're like a typical robot, but you got a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so like now I'm seeing the updated version of this Tesla bot. You had like better definitions in the hands. Oh yeah. So this is what is this new Atlas Boston Dynamics?
Yeah, this is Boston Dynamics. This is the new one.
Again, this does look fake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Completely AI. So hard to determine.
Yeah. I tell you what, if that started walking towards you, though, you'd shit yourself.
Oh yeah.
See, even the face. What's the there's like the
reflection.
Oh no, there's a kid's sort of like modern folklore villain sort of thing that looks like him. You know, remember when all the photographs of the thing with the big siren was going for a head was going on not so long ago. They sort of came out around the same time as like Slender Man and the Backrooms and stuff like that. I find it weird how it's got the same type of face, like they've borrowed stuff from like current nightmares.
Yeah, and it kind of looked like the robot alien from Lost in Space, that Netflix TV show. But nonetheless, the Tesla robots, those I think are real, and those are definitely made to take people's work and to put people out of work.
Yeah.
And, manual labor jobs. And I think that what you're seeing now with the rise in inflation, I mean, a lot of that was thanks to Trump because of the COVID spending that he printed out the most money ever printed in United States history during COVID. And, when you print out money, you can only have so much time until you have to inflate the price and make back what you have printed. And so there's a large increase in prices all around the world. I don't know if UK is seeing this as well.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, gas, groceries, everything. And so you've had now, I think McDonald's in California made it a law that fast food workers have to have at least $20 an hour, and that's for a minimum wage job. And so, of course, what happened is you had McDonald's laying off a lot of workers and replacing them with robots or with these self-service kiosks. And when you have this go into other labor markets and other labor industries where they mandate high wages, the higher the wage, the less likely the company is going to keep you on. And, that's what I think that these Tesla robots are being created for. I don't know about like automated trucks and everything like that, but as far as lifting, like a packaging conveyor belt type of job, like a UPS packer or a FedEx packer in the morning where you pack the trucks, unloading the trucks. When you look at, not only does it cut down on insurance, you don't have to really insure a robot. I mean, you kind of have to get like some sort of warranty, or, you got to maintain it. But I mean, it's not going to get hurt. It'll get broken, or it'll, need some parts. You'll have a maintenance plan for your robot, but you won't have to worry about anything bad happening to it. You don't have to worry about it not showing up for work. You don't have to worry about it having family issues or not, having vacation. A robot doesn't need vacation. It can go 24/7, unless you have to charge it. And that's where you'd have these fleets, right? You'd have your fleet A, then your fleet B. You'd plug in fleet A and then have fleet B go 24/7. So I think that Elon Musk is working with the grand scheme of things. He's openly called for universal basic income. It's part of this, let's raise the rates on everything. So that way everybody has to be forced a minimum wage of whatever the highest price is. And so that way it'll force employers to lay everybody off, bring in the robots, and then we'll have a universal basic income.
You see, I'm always torn on the universal basic income thing, because part of me thinks that it could spur like a second renaissance on, like if you think of all the creative people out there that are like tied to what they have to do because they have to pay the bills, they have to go out and do normal stuff. If we can all of a sudden send the robots out to do the work for us and we can do other things, that sounds great. The problem is the people that seem to be behind it. In principle, it's communism to a certain extent, isn't it? In principle, sounds awesome. Sounds like the way we should be doing stuff. In practice, people are corruptible. So if you tier society where we are completely reliant on government, and government is, as we've seen, is completely corruptible. No good thing can come of it. But what we do with the people as technology replaces what makes us necessary to keep the wheels moving. What we do with all of us is that's been a real worry for me for a while. And I'll be, without saying stuff that'll get us into issues with YouTube. 2 years ago, I genuinely believed that was the plan, to get rid of a few of us.
Yeah, I mean, it still might be. You never know.
Yeah,
but I mean, you'd expect to see a more declined rate in the population by now because of the effects of the miracle medicine. But I think that maybe there is that argument that you don't want to do everything right away, because then that puts all eyeballs on a specific medication, and it might be worse for other companies as far as replacing the workforce. But
also,
that reminds me,
things ready to roll out. That would be the thing. If you were going to do this and you were going to reduce the population to start replacing things with either AI, like AI programs to deal with the computer side of things and robots to deal with the manual labor side of things, you would want them to coincide nicely. So, because you wouldn't want to drop everything down and go, oh, fucking hell, we could really do another billion of these things.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder why is everybody focused on the year 2030? You hear Agenda 2030. Even the WEF is talking about by 2030 we need these 17 goals or these 17 initiatives to be in place.
Did you happen to hear what the Prime Minister of Great Britain said the other day, Richie Sunak? He did it like an emergency. No, sorry, emergency is the wrong word, but a unplanned speech. Yeah, dramatic, unplanned speech.
Okay.
Where he said the next 5 years will bring more change to the way we live than the last 30.
Ooh, yes, I did hear something like. Was that just the other day?
Yeah.
Or did he say that years ago?
No, it was a couple of days ago.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like Did anybody ask him what he's talking about?
No. We just everyone just carries on. Like, okay, Richie, should be fine then.
Okay. Well, so it makes you wonder, like, what do they have planned in the next 6 years? You know, what could they possibly do to bring in this carbon initiative? You know, everything green, everything electric. We don't have the infrastructure for that yet. You know, as far as self-driving cars, these portable all-electric cars. The power grid is not there to sustain that. You know, millions, billions of people plugging in their cars every night. What's that going to look like? And when you look at other agendas, this is more on like the conspiratorial side of things, but the Raelians, you know, the alien UFO cult.
Yep.
They believe that the fallen angels or the angels in the Bible are actually human beings, and that humans here on Earth were cloned. So everybody is a clone, and that the aliens, the fallen angels are the clones of us will come down by the year 2030. And their thing is that they want to build an embassy for the aliens. That's like their primary goal. If you go to like the Raelians website, their primary goal is to build an embassy so that the aliens can land there. And they also are saying that Israel could use that as their renewed temple, right? Because the temple of the third temple that is like notoriously going to be built in the end times prophecy, you're kind of merging these two religions together. The Raelians are saying, hey, Israel, allow us to build our embassy, you know, in Jerusalem or around, you know, wherever you want. But if you help us get land for this and help us pay for it, then you will be, you know, anointed as the holy ones, and you'll have these special, you know, duties from the, or like access things from the aliens when they land here. So it's very interesting that you have 2030 aliens coming. The Raelians believe that. They were told that, you know, the Rael, their leader, was told that, you know, go take that for what it is.
Lee, we need to do a show on this.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because if you look at the timing, you know, with the third temple and the sacrifice of the red heifers coming up here, you know, there were 5 red heifers transported from Texas to Israel over the summer. One of them is no longer valid, but are you guys familiar with the red heifer sacrifice?
Yeah, I can't help but think that whoever sold those really probably shouldn't have done. Probably should have just kept them in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, you know, he was probably paid a pretty penny for that, but I think he said that he did it for free. But you have a lot of Christians, the whole eschatology of the end times, Christians and, you know, the Jewish faith, they're kind of taking advantage of one another, because Christians think that the Jewish Messiah will be the Antichrist, and that Antichrist will usher in the second coming of Jesus. So they're kind of using the Jews as like a means to an end. And so it's just like this odd relationship. You know, you have evangelicals thinking that the end times is approaching, and you have many of them supporting Israel because of this, because they're saying, well, when you guys bring in your false Messiah, it'll be the Antichrist, and then our Messiah can come in. You know, it's like so odd. But you have this conversation and the conflict happening right now over in Israel. And I don't remember if we were talking about this last time I was on the show. I don't know if
I don't think so.
October 7th happened yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
No, I don't think it had.
Well,
maybe it had. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's just it's converging. So it seems like all of these events are converging up to 2030. You know, and you have like the election year happening right now for many countries. The return of Donald Trump, supposedly. What will that look like? So, I don't know.
When is that? When is that going down in America?
So the 2024 election happens on November 5th, I believe,
right,
this year.
Do you think it's going to happen?
Do I think the election will happen?
Yeah, because like Dave spoke about this a few times. This was maybe a year ago, and he said the way things are going, the shit's going to hit the fan, and it's going to be an all-out civil war.
Yeah.
So it probably won't even happen.
Yeah, no, I think that there might be some sort of cyber event that will happen during the election to call into question the results of the election. So I think that you'll have all of these voting machines available. I mean, honestly, when it comes to confidence in voting in America, I don't have that. I mean, there's nothing that tells me that whatever issues that were brought to the table have been resolved. So I haven't seen any of that happen yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Behind the scenes, everybody's saying this is a big a sting operation, right? The whole Cube movement is, hey, we're collecting evidence for this gigantic sting operation. But it's like, at what point do you have enough to just do something about it? So this time around, I believe that you will still have voting by mail. We'll still have the voting machines. We'll still have all the same infrastructure that we had. But if you do have a cyber incident that occurs on that day during the hours of many people voting, how do you know if the cyber event can switch, right? And all they have to do is come out with a story saying, hey, my name's Ned. I voted for Joe Biden, but my vote came up for Trump. What's going on? And then you have 20 other people come forward and be like, yeah, my vote was switched. Then all of a sudden you're going, okay, well, another foreign country hacked America during our elections, and they messed with the integrity of the voting structure. So we can't trust the results. And so if you can't trust the results, then what do? You have to have a handwritten ballot.
Yeah.
And that will take a lot of time to count, because even if it is some sort of backup process, that they have, a lot of people aren't prepared for that. As far as like, if, let's say like the podcast went down and you guys have your setup here, do you have like a backup setup somewhere, right? Like a backup mic or a backup like recording device. And if you did, you haven't used it in so long that the process would take you forever to figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like the other day for the Last Americans podcast that I'm on, something happened with our main computer out in Texas. So I had to run the show, but I hadn't run the show for, many, months. So I'm like, how do I do this? And it just like things were missing. I'm just like, messing up here and there. Like some programs, the volume was up. So I'm just saying, like, the backup systems that they have, I don't think that'll cut it. I think it'll take a lot of time. And so all they have is delay. I think that's what they're looking for. Is I don't think Joe Biden can win, but I think he can delay.
What would be the purpose of delaying it?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's what we'll have to find out.
Because if there's anything that man hasn't got in his hands, it's time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Joe Biden is on the same kind of same road as King Charles.
Yeah, maybe. I see. That's the thing. I have no doubt.
Children, though, he eats them.
What's that?
King Charles doesn't sniff children; he eats them.
Oh, that's right. Well, I mean, it's a slow process. You start out with the sniffing, and then eventually it will turn into eating. So.
It's 60% of your taste comes from your smell, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
So
there you go. Joe Biden's got really good nostrils.
I'm only kidding, my king. Please don't eat my children.
Yeah. Right.
Oh dear.
But I mean, the thing that keeps sticking out to me as well is that whole demon face thing that came, the TV, the news article, and I seen that as well on like 3 or 4 different news stations.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that struck me with that was they were doing the same thing as they did with the COVID narrative, where it was the same thing. So they'd been given like a script to go down this line. And I keep thinking to myself, I live in a town. Light pollution's terrible here. And yet the other day, the other evening I went out, I was taking pictures of auroras with my fucking iPhone. And that's not normal. That's not a normal thing. That would have been a thing that I could have done. And then I started thinking to myself, I wonder if, let's just say the solar, if the sun is going through some sort of like strange part of its solar cycle, and we know that the solar flares affect the electromagnetic field.
Mm-hmm.
What if that also affects what we can see as far as either visible light spectrum, or, for want of better words, what if the solar flares can affect how like the veil is perceived?
Yeah, exactly. So that is something that I've definitely heard, and that kind of goes into the new age, higher vibration. Humans are going into a higher vibration, higher frequencies, so we're going to be able to see things that we've never seen before, including a demon face. I don't know. I mean, this whole demon face, and that's what I was saying. Like, this year seems to be the year of the demon. They're talking about, I mean, you had the devil comet that was recently spotted. It was observable during the solar eclipse, or right around the solar eclipse. This demon face thing, you had people looking up during the solar eclipse reporting these demon-like figures, where it was like this like black string almost, where it looked like it was shooting very fast. People, when they paused the video, were saying it looked like a demon. King Charles, his photo looks like the red dragon or a demon in the middle. So I think that maybe the Vatican is preparing for this, and whether or not it's on purpose, or whether or not they can't stop it from coming, they can't stop this transition. But that's the whole idea behind the Age of Aquarius, is that lifting of the veil, there will be something that happens to the human body that will allow us to see things we've never seen before. It'll allow us to communicate with things that we've never really knew how to communicate with. Things will be new, and they can't stop it from happening. And so when you're talking about, the term, the old guard, you're replacing the old guard with the new guard and all this stuff. When you look at Space Force, what is Space Force doing? What are they protecting us from? Are they protecting us from comets, asteroids? Is that all they're really up there to do? Maybe intercontinental, ballistic missiles?
Well, we do have Apophis to look forward to.
Yes. Yeah, Apophis. Yeah. Yeah, so that's another thing too, is with NASA, with that asteroid sample, right? Bennu, the asteroid.
I don't know what this is.
So NASA sent up a contraption to mine an asteroid. It was the first time ever that they extracted a sample from an asteroid. And the asteroid's name was Bennu, and that's like an ancient bird god. If you look up Bennu, it's this ancient type of god. I think I have some notes on it, but it's funny.
It's got like the eagle type face.
I believe so. Here, let me see here. So Osiris Rex was the name of the spacecraft. And this was the first ever asteroid sample collection mission to provide insights into the origins of the universe. And Bennu was named after this kid. It was so bizarre. Like, I was like, how did they come up with the name Bennu? And it was this boy. Let me open this up. This boy who named Bennu. And it was like, it's such like this fake article where I'm like, okay, so really, like, this boy just created this. It was like the Planetary Society. He's like doing like this thing. This little kid named Mike. Naming Bennu was the beginning of something bigger. He spent the last 10 years serving as blah, 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 blah. So nonetheless, the whole story behind like all this NASA stuff is always just kind of questionable to me, as far as like the occult. If you look at the occult origins of NASA with the Jet Propulsion's Laboratory, Jack Parsons, all of that, I don't know if much of that has either gone away, or I don't know how deep that is rooted within NASA itself. But everything that they do, all of their missions, like Artemis, Apollo, Bennu, Osiris Rex, they're all named after these old gods. And so you got to like ask yourself, why? Why not Jesus? Why not Christian, faith-based type of things? You know what I mean? Like, why not just like Ollie? Why not just Lee? We got the Lee shuttle going up there. You know what I mean? Like how they name tornadoes. You know, like why are we putting so much interest into naming these things?
Why not something more American?
There you go.
You would think every main mission would have an eagle and a star at some point in that in the name of it.
Yeah. Well, so where I was going with this is Osiris Rex is this the thing that captured the sample from the asteroid, right? And it had this pod, and it shipped the pod from outer space, and it sent the pod back to Earth. Scientists have the sample. I think it took them months to even touch the frickin' sample because I think they wanted to like test it for radiation and all that stuff. But Osiris Rex remained in space, and now they're sending this. Do you know where? They're sending it to Apophis to study and take samples from the asteroid that's supposed to impact Earth. It's like the biblical story of this crater causing, like catastrophe causing comet.
Oddly, we've got an odd story when it comes to Apophis because we had through Dave, like a NASA contractor came on, and we know that the credentials he had and all that sort of stuff. We had a good show with him because he was confused, as confused as we are, as like the naming of these things and stuff like that. But then it was kind of like an off the cuff thing at the end that he'd been told by somebody. And again, this is a little bit as like my dad's got a guy that works for Nintendo, but he'd been told by someone he trusted that Apophis had already been diverted. Like it was on a course. They were worried about it, and they got ahead of it, and they'd already diverted it. But like I said, it's one of those things which is it's somebody that we trust that told us a story that they'd been told.
I mean, it seems pretty simple to me. If it is coming to Earth, you know, and we can do what we say we can do in space, send a rocket up, make sure you got a little bit of fuel left, pin it to the asteroid, and let all hell break loose and fire the jets in the opposite direction. Yeah.
Or just send up Bruce Willis, you know, Armageddon, have Steve and Tyler singing in the background, you know, make another movie about it. Be great.
I'm sure Brian Cox will tell us what to do.
Yeah.
He'll say it's all right. It's fine.
Exactly.
With his smiley face.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you've got Neil deGrasse Tyson when no one really knows where he comes from. You've got Bill Nye the Science Guy, which was a Disney guy, and Brian Cox, which was the keyboard player of British band D-Ream. And that's who we have as the public face of science.
Yeah. Well, no, that's why it's so fascinating to see how Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan, because he's openly calling for these people, deGrasse Tyson and you name it, to come debate him and debate these topics on Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan's hopefully going to set that up, but we'll see. I don't know.
Who is Terrence Howard?
So he's an actor. He was in Iron Man. He was like the wingman of Iron Man.
I thought he was. That's what that. But then I got confused because I saw the clip of him talking about the patents he held about VR, you know, the VR thing, and then I got completely confused because was he the did he have the other Iron Man suit, the silver one?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So they replaced his character with Don Cheadle or something, and he talked about this on the show, essentially where all of these allegations came out from his like ex-wife that he was a beater, you know what I mean, and kind of had domestic violence and was doing some weird stuff. So when this stuff came out in the news, they called him and said, hey, you can still do Iron Man, but we want you at a lower rate. And so his publisher was like, no, and pulled the plug on the deal. And he kind of walked away, I guess, from the Hollywood scene because he was forced to take the miracle medicine and he wouldn't do it. And so there's like a brief stint in that episode where they kind of go down everything that didn't really make sense with the miracle medicine as well. And so he definitely knows his stuff. When it comes to like the science stuff, I think it's something that he must be very, very in depth with. Like he's been studying it his whole life, because he's talking about stuff that I learned in school a long time ago. But I'm like, dude, you're just pulling this up like you know it off the back of your hand. So I don't know. It's very bizarre. He's an actor. And so when you think about it, it's like, could he be acting this whole thing? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But he has a hell of a memory. I'll give him that.
Well, there's a few people that say Neil deGrasse Tyson's an actor, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Bill
he's
Nye.
just pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you just see him everywhere.
Well, it's funny because I remember when I was in like middle school. I mean, this was back in what, 2000, 1999, 1998. And we were watching classes in like biology, or we were watching these videos in our biology class and stuff. And you'd see, Neil deGrasse Tyson come on and be like, oh, who's this guy? He's fun. He's got, he seems likable. Yeah. He knows his stuff. Okay. Yeah. And then you'll see him on like these PBS, Sesame Street. You'll see him indoctrinating children and you go, okay, well, wait, what is this all about? Same thing with Bill Nye, right? Mm. He had some like interesting experiments that were fun to watch, as like a kid. But then when they start talking about stuff for government purposes, like global warming, climate change, then you're going, okay, so you were just brought in to usher in a narrative and to help support that and to indoctrinate,
Yeah, I mean, what's his name? God, his name just gone off me. The British guy.
Brian.
Yeah, Brian Cox. He was really weird because he just sort of came from nowhere on British television.
He did.
But that's what they used as like a hook to get you into him, because obviously like he was this quite calming, like slow speaking guy. And then it was like, oh yeah, and he was also in like I don't know if I would imagine D-Ream didn't make it across the pond to the States, but they had like a one-hit wonder called "Things Will Only Get Better." You might have heard that song at some point. And he was the keyboard player of that band. So at some point, he's spent his life being a musician, jacked music in, went to university, became a scientist, and has found his way back onto television to be like the voice for like British, especially anything to do with space.
Weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And it's because I don't believe that you can't find at least one just a scientist with charisma. There must be somebody out there who's like, oh, Dave's a particle physicist, but he's dead cool and he's really funny. So we'll put him out to do it.
Right. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like that's like the give and take when it comes to you got a big brain and you're really smart, but you're not that sociable. You don't really know how to like talk to people. Yeah. And like being around, because I like went to school for science stuff, and I've been around a lot of like science minded individuals. And when you ask them a very simple question, they'll give you the whole story. And you're like, bro, this is a yes or no question. I just need to know the answer here. Like, and so they'll give you like, well, this is why this is happening. And then I have to do this. And then it'll lead to this happening. And then eventually, maybe, like it might, more than likely, then they'll give you a percentage of the likelihood of yes happening versus no. And I'm like, dude, okay. So if you got a lot of people like that, I completely get it. But to your point, I mean, there's cool people out there that, they have cool stories. They're fun to listen to, and you could get them in place to do like these podcasts and stuff. But will they sell the narrative to make you money, down the road? And that's, you got to look at like who's funding their scientific studies. And, that's the crappy part about science is that performing science costs money. and you got to get the money often from government grants, and the government will only give you a grant if you study what they want you to study. And that's the problem.
On the people coming out and saying something, you just said there that people wouldn't necessarily follow the narrative that they're supposed to. How much of media do you think is corrupted?
That's a good question. I think that it's a mixture. I think that there's definitely information that's real, but I think that they tie in, and when I say they, you're talking about World Economic, exactly, right? So right off the top of my head, World Economic Forum, the World Bank, people with money and want to keep the money. And so I'm just thinking, when they want to influence society, you have to look at like the stories that they don't make sense, why they're so big, but they click in and they stick. Like, for example, what was it? The young Idaho couple. So Brian Laundrie, and then there was this young Gabby something. She ended up getting murdered by her boyfriend. And this was like in the news for weeks. They were looking for her body and all this stuff. It's like, where's Gabby? Where's Gabby? And all this stuff. And it's like, okay, why is this? Like, I get it. It's sad that she's missing. And I hope that they find, her killer, and they find her, body and all that stuff. But why is this a headline across every single platform?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the Idaho murders. I don't know if you heard about those.
Same thing with Madeleine McCann.
Yes. Right.
Like lots of and it's, don't get me wrong, it's fucking horrible. And whenever anything like that happens, it always makes me think of my own child. And you go, fuck, I don't know what I'd do in that situation if he disappeared. But like lots of kids go missing. It's something ridiculous as well. Like it's something strange, like 600,000 in the UK. So the size of the UK, like it's a huge number. I know 80% of those will come back. It's people running away and things like that. But the thing is that wasn't the only child that would have gone missing. But she became a global story, and people turn around and say, "Oh yeah, well it was because she was like a young white blonde-haired kid," and you go, "Fuck." I bet there's I bet there's a ton of all kids look nice. It just confuses me. It confuses me how certain things just spark up.
Yeah, so it is one of those things where I think the truth is sprinkled in with lies, and I think they do that on purpose to confuse the public, so that way they don't know which way to turn to get their news. Mm. And they can say something that you don't agree with, and I think that is the main thing that they're trying to do, is get society to shut you off if you disagree with it. Mm. Whereas you should be listening to it and challenging it and becoming an expert in what you don't believe in, so that way you can further solidify your argument against why you don't believe in that. And we've gone away from that critical thinking and that almost competitive reinforcement of open speech, this free speech. Now we're talking about hate speech. Over here in America, we just had the House. Well, it just passed. Joe Biden signed it, but it's something to do with the Israel, the Holocaust remembrance, all this stuff.
The anti-Semitism thing.
Anti-Semitism laws. But the main thing about that is their definition of anti-Semitism is for this group, or it's set by this group. It's defined by this group, the International Holocaust Remembrance Association. Mm-hmm. And that definition can change at any moment. So it's like, what if you say something that's not anti-Semitism today, or anti-Semitic today, but then it's anti-Semitic 2 weeks from now? Mm-hmm. They can come back and be like, hey, look, you said this, just like how they're looking stuff up with, they had in America, Judge Kavanaugh, when he was being appointed, they pulled stuff from his high school yearbook that he wrote down. It's like, how far back can we go to pull up some dirt on you to prove what you are today? So it's just like, You know, that is the thing, is that the amendment, the First Amendment, free speech, that's what they're trying to limit. Because when you limit that, then you don't have any opposition, you know, and it's just like the government can do whatever the hell they want.
This is exactly why cancellation was, I would say, purposely injected into like society, because at first it was it was a certain group of people. Like there's a certain group of people over here where I live that I had an argument with because I wasn't down with drag performances in schools. So those people don't speak to me anymore. So as far as they're concerned, I'm cancelled. Doesn't really bother me, if I'm perfectly honest. But the thing is then the next step of that is, as soon as you start bringing in hate crimes and things like that, you're turning this into laws, and that's terrifying. Like but essentially everyone with the podcast is fucked. Anyone that's talked for hours and hours on end.
Oh yeah.
It's at some point, if the way things are going, at some point in the future, everybody will be guilty of something.
Well, and you look at, I mean, you guys run a podcast. I don't know if you recently saw that. I mean, this was implemented last year, but Apple or iTunes or Apple Podcasts, they are implementing a free service where you can transcribe your entire podcast. So they will listen to your podcast, use AI, I'm sure, and transcribe everything that you say. So everything that you say is written down. And they do that out of convenience for you and for your listeners, but they do that really to observe and monitor what you're saying. And it's easier to capture a word when it's written down through a word search than it is through like a vocal type of, program. So it's like those things where they introduce these things as services, and like, oh, it's so much quicker, it's more efficient, it's easier. But then it's like, oh, what are they really doing with the data? I did. So just to get back on this, the updating the norms. So I sent you guys in your Twitter or in your X account, I sent you a link to the official document from the Vatican. And I was thinking like we could kind of just scroll through this. I know we don't have much longer, right? You guys usually go for 2 hours or so.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's okay. I know you've got stuff to do as well, haven't you? So don't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got to coach a football game today. So good stuff. But so one of these things, so it's at the very top of this document. It's kind of going through the updates. This is like the original document that came out in 1974 or something, blah, 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 blah. But eventually, like, when I was looking through this, from what I got on this, I can't remember exactly where it was, but I saw that when they heard something, it was like when they heard a story that was fruitful for the church, like it would provide the church, like fruitful. It can be like taken many different ways. So like, will it make them money? Will it make more Christian believers? I don't know. But if it's
just strengthen it in some way.
Exactly right. So if it's a story that somebody comes out and says, hey, I just saw an apparition of Jesus Christ, or I just saw Mary Magdalene, you know what I mean? And there's like hundreds of these reportings like a year, right? But if they find one that will make them money, or that is, quote, fruitful for them, they'll allow it to propagate, and they'll sign it off as legitimate. And I wish I had it highlighted here, but that's something that I did see in this, where I'm going, oh, okay. I think it's number 3 in that bullet point here.
That's what I found weird with this, was the way that they were kind of like lots of these guidelines sort of shoved stuff away. And I thought, well, hang on a second, if we are going to start seeing things, I would think that the church would want to capitalize on this, and like bring people back into the church and away from sort of modern like modern consumerism and all the other stuff that we've replaced religion with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
see, like
would make sense.
Right here under the letter I, so criteria for judging, at least with probability, the character of the presumed apparitions or revelations. So they have letter A, positive criteria. And I believe this is, if you scroll up just a little bit, you'll see it. There we go. Yeah, right there. So the positive criteria to me is this is what it will take in order for us to accept this as a true apparition or revelation. So moral certitude, or at least the great probability of the existence of the fact acquired by the means of serious investigation. So that, I think, is just like, is this person being, verified as they're morally being correct here? I don't know. Particular circumstances relative to the existence and to the nature of the fact, that is to say, personal qualities of the subject or of the subjects, in particular, psychological equilibrium, honesty, the rectitude of moral life, sincerity, the habitual docility towards the ecclesiastical, or however you say that, authority, right? So it's like they look at you as a human being and they go, is this person trustworthy? Are they reputable? Do they have a good, relationship with the church? Did they have any hostility towards the church? So they'll look through all of your existing things for, judging your rationale to do this. But going down here, so right here, number 3, healthy devotion and abundant and constant spiritual fruit. For example, spirit of prayer, conversion, testimonies of charity. Testimonies of charity. So if you constantly give charity to the church, they'll likely trust you more. So the more money you give them, the more trust you get. So I just found that was interesting.
Do you know what this screams at me as well? Is, like, again, to polish the tinfoil hat a little bit more. If you had a cast iron, what we have is a cast iron set of guidelines, and it's essentially kind of a way for the Vatican to say, no, we have these checks and balances in place. So if anything fantastical happens, we'll provide a good answer for you. If you were going to have something like Bluebeam happen, and we were going to see like a deity or something, or projection, or an alien spaceship, and the Vatican could come out after presenting this forward, and no, well, we've kept score, we've got our receipts here. We're calling this a miracle. It feels like they're putting themselves, they're setting themselves up to be the authority on this to happen, or if something should happen.
Yeah. And if you think about it, I mean, if you need an exorcism, who do you call? You call the Vatican, or you call Ghostbusters first, but then you go, wait a second, I got to call like a Catholic priest, right? Because I don't know if any other religion really does exorcisms, do they?
No, I don't think so. Oh no, sorry. I think there is, but there's I think there's something in Hindu that's the same, but it's called something different. I'm sure there is, but I'm probably making it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nonetheless, that is one thing where I don't get this. So, like, the one thing about Jesus Christ is that when you have people telling stories about alien abductions, alien encounters, there's some evil spirit in their room, and they invoke the name of Jesus Christ, it stops. Right? The evil goes away. The dismal feeling of whatever threat, resides. So I don't know what it is about the name of Jesus that either scares something away or that opens a door for something to go back through, like an interdimensional being, like it's like a open sesame type of phrase.
This is what they say with abductions as well. Greg, that if you say Jesus Christ, it stops.
Yeah. So that's the one thing that always gets me. And I go, what if, now this is like super conspiracy, just reaching where I can, you know what I mean? What if the Vatican is setting up alien abductions and they send these things into your house to force you to call out Jesus's name? When you do, you become that much more devoted to Jesus Christ because you go, holy moly, that worked. I physically saw it. I felt it. Now I'm going to tell my story, and many will believe that Jesus is the true savior because he saved me.
I mean, but I want to know what the selection process is
for like who do we call or who do we invade?
Yeah,
I think it's just random. You know what I mean? Just like that movie, The Box. Have you ever seen the movie The Box?
Yes.
Is
that the one? Is that the one? Oh no, I'm thinking of The Cube.
Yeah, it's either called The Box or The Gift, where I think Ewan McGregor was in it, but you have this couple, like man and wife, and someone knocks on the door, gives them a box and goes, hey, inside the box, you'll be granted a wish, but every time you grant the wish or you do something with the box, someone randomly dies out in the world. And so they, it's an interesting film because it's like they go back and forth about, do we do it? Do we not? They end up doing it. And then the guy comes to collect the box and says, hey, just letting you know, since you chose to do something with the box, somebody else can choose something to do with the box and you might die or you might be impacted. You might be the person that has to pay the punishment when this comes down the road. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know what the selection process would be, but it's one of those things where, they got to choose somebody that's vocal. They got to choose somebody that has access to media. You would choose somebody with influence, right? It wouldn't be somebody that's like, I don't know. I mean, if you did it to Joe Rogan, for example, be like Joe Rogan comes out and just says, guys, I just have to tell you the story. I was going to be abducted by an alien and then I called out Jesus's name and it went away. So from here on forward, I'm going to give my life to Christ and I'm going to be doing all, so I don't know if it would take something like that because that might be a little weird.
That'd be the biggest thing to happen to a religion since Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Right. Joe Rogan comes out as a freaking priest or something.
Oh, there's a thumbnail there. A very good thumbnail there.
There you go. Give him the white collar and all that stuff. Yes. Yeah. So yeah. I was thinking about that the other day and I'm going, oh, what if that whole thing is fake? Like, what if they are planting these subliminal messages of alien abduction into people's brains to make them more religious? I don't know.
We see, my thing with Christianity is that it seems to be the most under fire religion. Especially in like what you would consider is like historically Christian countries. And I grew up an atheist. It's only in the in recent years that I think there's a secret religion that our world leaders are involved in, and that seems to be the antithesis of Christianity. So I'd prefer to be on the opposite team if that's true. But so that's why I find what Christianity has weight to me is because just like everything, like it's you say about where you get news from and stuff like that, the way I trust things now is how much mainstream attack is this getting? Mm-hmm. If it's getting a lot of mainstream attack, then that's probably the way I should be walking.
Yeah, well, so even that, like if this whole thing about Trump and the 5D chess, right? You're thinking,
I think we're on 7D now, for all honest.
Right? Like how many Ds are there in this chess game? But if you think about how do you make somebody like somebody? You get them to be an underdog, you get them to be picked on, right? Like, because naturally human instinct goes, hey, you're picking on this guy. Like, why are you picking on this guy? Like, you have everything you need. Like, leave them alone. You know, and you want to step in. You want to support the person that's being picked on. So, you know, Trump has been multiple times been referred to as going through the persecution, just like Jesus Christ. He's been compared to Jesus Christ. He's been picked on by the media, I think purposefully now, to garner more support for him. I feel like they're doing this on purpose because they know every time they pick on Donald Trump, every time they attack him, he just gets more popular.
Mm.
So why do they keep doing this? You know, there's no logical, right? And it's like, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I know they're not insane. I know they're not dumb. So the mainstream media continues to do these things to gain Donald Trump popularity. So maybe that is the 5D chess.
Attacking Trump in the way that they did on his first 10 years president, that destroyed faith in media for a lot of people.
It did,
because it was so obvious. You didn't have to. I mean, we're all the way over on the other side of the world. I don't have a dog in the fight there, but when I watch that, you could see it was nonsense. And look at the never ending, what seems to be list of people that want to try and take him to court for something, for something only to fall through again. Mm-hmm. I still think the funniest one didn't they look at him for his tax returns, and then it turned out that they actually owed him tax money that he'd overpaid.
Something like that,
yeah. Same thing with Stormy Daniels. Like, Stormy Daniels ended up owing him money after she sued him and all this stuff. So I'm just like, the guy slips on a banana peel and always lands on his feet, you know? Yeah. And it's like, the more banana peels they throw at him, the more people love him, because he's like a dancing monkey at a zoo. You know, he's like doing all these tricks and flips, and everybody's amazed. And they're going, wow, how is this guy? You know, he's Teflon Don. Nothing sticks to him. It always bounces off. And is that by accident? Or is this like a pattern and a trend? And is this on purpose? And, you know, I tend to think that it's on purpose, and there's a trend and there's a pattern here. And, you know, it's like one of those things where, if the people in power have so much power, why don't they just get rid of Donald Trump? That is the number one question to me, is like, how is Donald Trump still alive if he's such a threat to their whole system?
Yeah.
Because they could have easily done it. They could have easily done it and made it a crazy, left-wing rainbow.
Not only that, Ollie, they could have done it. They could have done it, and a large part, or at least the left wing part of the political spectrum in the US would have cheered. You know, it's not. We're past the rational thought on politics now, because it's so tribal. You know, I mean, you wouldn't have had the well, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. I might be completely wrong, but I'd say you wouldn't have had the sort of national public outcry for when Kennedy was assassinated, for instance. You know, that when you look back on old footage, again, the history's written differently than maybe it was, but that seems like it was a country mourning when that happened. I don't think you would have had the same thing with Trump. I think you would have had half the political spectrum mourning, and the other half would have been watching The View cackle away about it.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, you don't even have to make it you can make it look like an accident. Like, if somebody dies in their sleep, he's old. I mean, he's 77 years old. So it's like, if something happened to him, they could make it look like a natural cause of death. You know, and they have heart attack guns. I mean, it's openly called out. The CIA admitted they have a heart attack gun. That was back in the 70s. So it's like, what do they have now? You know, I'm sure they have many ways to get rid of somebody and make it look like an accident or natural.
He does eat at McDonald's every day.
What's that?
He eats at McDonald's apparently every day.
Oh, there you go. So McDonald's is not the best for you. So maybe there's something there. I don't know.
Maybe he is the luckiest person in the world. And if we go back and look at loads of different times of when Trump's out, somebody like collapses behind him where they missed with the heart attack gun.
Exactly. It's like, whoa. Yeah, you just have like a swarm of bees all around him, but not attacking him.
Yeah, but for any of our listeners that are interested in that, the Golden Dawn series, it was called, wasn't it, on the Strange Sauna? I highly recommend people go and listen to that.
And
yeah, there's 3 episodes, or 3 or 4 episodes or something. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of different information on there that it's just, I don't want to like say Donald Trump is the Antichrist, but there's a lot of evidence to support why somebody could believe that. But it's just one of those things where I think that they're taking advantage of the Bible and the end times, and they're using that as like a playbook to create events and make people kind of believe something's happening.
I mean, I hope he's not. My mate got me a bottle opener the other day.
Oh, there you go. What is that? A paperweight?
No, it's a bottle opener.
Oh, a bottle opener. There you go. I didn't even see that. Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, like Trump, I think he's hilarious. I like his personality. I just don't know how genuine he is. So,
yeah. Well, we know you've got a game to go and coach.
Oh, yes.
I hope you have a good day. Thanks for coming on again. I hope you come on again in the future.
Absolutely.
Fun. Apart from Strange Sauna, where can people find you?
Strange Sauna TikTok is my new TikTok account. I had to start a new one because they completely censored my old one. So one is, I won't be really posting anything to that. So Strange Sauna TikTok, and then, Strange Sauna on YouTube, Strange Sauna Show on Instagram. So I'm active on there, and then also on Telegram. So I'm very active on Telegram. There's a lot of information that I go through back and forth with some dedicated people that I really enjoy talking to. So join me over on Telegram or wherever.
Awesome.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for joining us, mate. And again, always a pleasure. And make sure everybody goes and checks out Strange Sauna. Good night. God bless people. Mind the bugs don't bite. Like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Links in the description. Support the show.
So let's start from the very beginning. You say it's a 90-year cover-up.
Just about, yeah.
90 years.
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle.
There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand. So yes, that story bothers me. And I think, last thing I'll say, that one of the reasons that we've had all these disclosures and all of these, 10 whistleblowers at this point, and it hasn't really become front page news. Part of it's suppression. Parts of the government don't want you to know about it, but part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far out.
The Italian government moved it to a secure air base in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945, and the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that.
So the Vatican was involved.
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet.
Certainly.
What is a demon? Right? I think most people would submit to you that a demon is some sort of supernatural being that is based in some sort of religious doctrine and is usually, malevolent to some degree.
That's a wrap.